Hello students, welcome to this special video lesson designed by Rishi Sir. Today we're diving into a hilarious one-act play called The Proposal by Anton Chekhov. And let me tell you, it's less of a romantic comedy and more of, well, a complete and total mess, which is exactly what makes it so much fun to break down.
All right, so here's a quick look at what we're going to cover. First up, we'll meet our characters and figure out what's going on with this very, very nervous proposal. Then, we're going to get into the two massive fights, first about land, then about dogs. After that, we'll ask the big question, why all the drama? And finally, we'll look at the clever comic tricks Chekhov uses to make us laugh. Sound good? Let's get started.
Okay, so let's set the scene. The man behind this madness is Anton Chekhov, a famous Russian writer. Now, what made him so brilliant was that he showed people, well, as they really are, flaws and all. He doesn't give us perfect heroes. He gives us characters who are a little bit silly, a little bit stubborn, basically a lot like real people. And you'll see that in every single line of this play.
Exactly. So let's meet the people at the center of this chaos. First, there's Ivan Lomov. Oh, this guy, he is a total bundle of nerves. He's 35, he owns land, but he's also a hypochondriac, which means he's always convinced he's about to fall terribly sick. Then we have Natalia, his 25-year-old neighbor. She is very, very strong-willed, and she just loves a good argument. And finally, there's her father, Chubukov, whose main goal in life is to get his daughter married. I mean, imagine the pressure in that house, no?
So what is Lomov's big, stressful mission? He gets all dressed up in his evening clothes and marches over to his neighbor Chubukov's house with one single thing on his mind. He's going to propose to Natalia. Now, when Chubukov sees him, his first thought is, oh no, he's here to borrow money. But when Lomov reveals it's actually a marriage proposal, Chubukov is absolutely overjoyed. He's so thrilled you think he's going to burst.
Okay, so the father's on board. This should be a piece of cake, right? Oh, but no. This is where it all goes wrong. Lomov is so nervous, he can't just come out and say, will you marry me? No. He starts beating around the bush, talking about their families and their land and their history as neighbors. And this little bit of small talk, well, it leads straight into their first huge fight.
Right. Instead of talking about marriage, Lomov happens to mention a piece of land called Oxen Meadows. He casually calls it his land. And Natalia immediately stops him and says, excuse me, that land belongs to my family.
And just like that, poof, the proposal is completely forgotten. They dive headfirst into this massive, ridiculous argument over a tiny little piece of land. He says it's his, she insists it's hers, and it just goes back and forth. All this while the engagement ring is probably burning a hole in his pocket.
The argument gets so nasty that they start insulting each other's ancestors, and Lomov, with all his anxieties and heart palpitations, just can't take it anymore and storms out of the house.
And here's the kicker. Only after he leaves does Chubukov let it slip that Lomov was there to propose. Natalia's reaction is priceless. She goes from furious to completely hysterical in like 2 seconds, screaming at her dad to bring him back. I mean, the level of drama is just wow.
So they somehow manage to drag a very confused and flustered Lomov back into the house. They try to get back on track, try to talk about the proposal, but do you think it works? Of course not. It takes them only a few minutes to find something brand new to argue about. This time it's about their dogs. Seriously. Lomov starts boasting about his dog, Guess, saying he's the best hunting dog around, and Natalia fires right back that her dog, Squeezer, is way, way better. Big mistake. Huge. This fight gets even more personal than the first one. They're insulting each other's dogs, each other's families. It's just pure chaos. You really can't make this stuff up.
And this all leads to the big climax of the play. The argument about the dogs gets so intense, and Lomov's hypochondria goes into overdrive. He's talking about his heart palpitations, his leg going numb, and then he just dramatically faints, collapsing into a chair. For a moment, everyone thinks he's actually...
Can you imagine? Chubukov totally panics. He thinks he's killed his potential son-in-law. So, in a desperate move, he grabs Natalia's hand, shoves it into Lomov's, and just declares them engaged, demanding they kiss and make it official. Lomov wakes up, totally confused. They sort of accept the proposal and immediately start arguing about the dogs again. So yep, they're engaged, but the fighting is far from over. What a start to a marriage.
Okay, so after all that madness, you have to be wondering, what's the point? What are we supposed to learn from these three completely crazy people fighting all the time? Is this whole thing just for laughs, or is there something more going on? That is exactly the right question to be asking. Because this play isn't just a silly comedy. Chekhov is using all this chaos to tell us something really important about people, about marriage, and about society at that time. So, let's unpack it.
We can boil it down to three main themes. First, Chekhov is highlighting the farcical or ridiculous nature of marriage for this wealthy class. For them, it wasn't about love. It was more like a business deal to join two properties together.
Right. And that leads to the second theme, which is just human pride. The whole time I was reading it, I wanted to just shout, "Stop fighting and get to the point, Yar." They are both so stubborn and proud, they get completely lost fighting over tiny, unimportant things. And they forget the actual reason Lomov is even there.
Exactly. And the third theme, believe it or not, is the deep desire for companionship. Underneath all that yelling and arguing, they're all very lonely. Lomov feels he's getting old and needs a settled life. Natalia is worried she won't get married, and her father just wants her to be settled. So they all desperately want this marriage to happen, even if they can't seem to stand each other for more than 5 minutes.
Okay, so for exams, we always get those questions about literary devices. And honestly, words like satire, irony, they can get a little confusing. Can you break it down for us? What exactly is Chekhov doing to make this play so funny?
Of course. Let's start with satire. Put simply, satire is when a writer uses humor to criticize something foolish about society. In this play, Chekhov is using satire to make fun of the rich, landowning class of his time. He's showing how ridiculous their priorities are by having them fight over land and dogs instead of something important like, love and marriage.
Oh, okay. So it's like a joke with a serious message hidden inside. He's making us laugh at them, but he's also making a point that they care more about property and status than actual human connection. Got it.
And that brings us perfectly to the next device, irony. The biggest irony in this whole play is its title. It's called The Proposal, but the characters do everything but have a romantic proposal. You expect love and romance, but what you get is fighting and insults. That huge gap between what you expect and what actually happens, that's irony. And finally, the whole play is what we call a farce. A farce uses completely exaggerated, over-the-top, and sometimes silly situations just to make the audience laugh. Think about Lomov's dramatic fainting spell or Natalia's sudden hysterics. These situations aren't meant to be realistic. They are classic elements of farce, designed purely to make you laugh at how absurd it all is. Cello, done and dusted. So there you have it, a really funny play that seems like nonsense on the surface, but actually has a lot of deep meaning. I really hope this breakdown helped you understand it all a little better. Best of luck for your exams, guys, and maybe think twice before getting into an argument over whose pet is better.